How good is your favorite NFL team after 4 weeks of the 2025 NFL season? Welcome, football fans, to the most real power rankings on the internet. This is the video where I rank every NFL team from the worst to the best. And I keep it real. Does your team suck? Or are they actually good? Before I get started, Gronk, spike the like button. Show your love, it's free. And don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel for weekly power rankings every week of the NFL season, just like this. Get in the comments and let me know your opinion. Who's too high? Who's too low? And who is just right? Let's kick it off with the worst team. The absolute worst team in the NFL. And we have a new champion of the bottom of the barrel. That's right. Bottom line is that the Tennessee Titans are back where they belong, the bottom of the NFL. They were the worst team in football last year, selecting first in the 2025 NFL Draft. Will Levis to Cam Ward. And yet, they still suck. That's right. The Titans are arguably worse than they were last year. At least last year, they appeared to be more competitive. They were losing because of flukes and mistakes. Now, they're simply losing because they suck. They can't kick field goals. They can't block. Their young quarterback is making mistakes in key moments. And their defense can't rush the quarterback. You know it's embarrassing when you can't put pressure on CJ Stroud. That's pretty embarrassing. And really last week, they should have been tied at halftime. Of course, they weren't because they couldn't kick a field goal. And then in the second half, the Texans separated. They couldn't block that great pass rush of Houston. And Houston just took it to them in the second half. This has been a recurring theme. They start fine. They're actually fairly competitive in the first half. And then in the second half, they get utterly dominated. Mr. Callahan is 3-18 as their head coach. He is the worst coach versus the spread. And almost all pro gamblers and even degenerates can't put money on the Tennessee Titans. That is how unserviceable they are. That is how unreliable they are. The NFL betting community can't bet on the Tennessee Titans. And honestly, the books can't figure them out. They can't cover a spread. Not only can they not win a game, they can't cover a game. That's how bad they are. So, yeah, I said the Saints would be 32 until further notice, until they win a game, but at least the Saints can cover spreads. The Tennessee Titans can't cover a spread. At number 31, that's right, the New Orleans Saints. You thought you were going to move up the list. No. You still haven't won a game. And honestly, there are only 2 teams in the NFL that are starting quarterbacks that have literally never won a game. Cam Ward and Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler has played about 11 games in the NFL and he still has not won a game. It's embarrassing. Now, they have played a fairly difficult schedule. This week, they get an opportunity against an opponent on their level. We'll see if the Saints can get it done. They're at home against the Giants with no Malik Neighbors. If they were ever going to win a game, it would be this week. right? They lost to the Niners, even with Mac Jones. Fine. They lost to the Cardinals. Okay. They lost to Seattle in Seattle, a good football team. They lost to Buffalo in Buffalo. You're probably going to lose that. 99% of teams are going to lose that. But the Giants at home? Now, I will say about the Saints, I liked their run game last week. I'm intrigued to see if Alvin Kamara will be moved via trade at some point. Keandre Miller started to get it going. And the Saints played admirably. They hung in the game against the MVP and the Buffalo Bills. And they actually moved the ball, possessed the ball a little bit. And I have to give Kellen Moore some love. I'll also say that they've consistently been pretty solid against the run outside of last week, where it feels like the Bills can run the ball on anybody. So their secondary might get shredded, but I would not expect that to happen this week against a rookie quarterback who threw for 111 yards last week without his number one receiver. So if the Saints are ever going to win a game, it should be at home against a rookie quarterback off a highly emotional win against a team that they never thought they would beat. It really should be this week for the Saints. And maybe I move you up to 30 and I give you a cookie. All right, at number 30, the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are pathetic. The Patriots whooped the Carolina Panthers up and down the football field. It was too easy. It was the most satisfying Patriot victory in quite some time. And yes, I believe the Patriots are good. And I believe Drake May is excellent, elite. But the Panthers were horrible in that game. They really couldn't do anything well. They couldn't cover worth a lick. They couldn't contain Drake May when they needed to. They couldn't stop short yardage runs when they needed to. They couldn't complete a pass like 5 yards for like the entire game. They could barely block. And Bryce Young was brutal. Brutal. Absolutely eye-numbingly bad. Now, the Carolina Panthers have been better at home. They are 1-3, and their lone home game was won 30-0. They now have an opportunity, just like the Saints, to play an opponent on their level. The Miami Dolphins without Tyreek Hill. The Saints play the Giants without Malik Neighbors. The Panthers play the Dolphins without Tyreek Hill. If there's a chance for you to win, it should be at home against Tua turned the ball over. Maybe the only quarterback more fragile than Bryce Young. At number 29, the New York Jets. Incompetently coached by Aaron Glenn, the Jets fumbled the game away against Miami. In some metrics and statistics, they actually outplayed the Dolphins, but their simplistic defensive scheme is just absolutely predictable, and it's led to their defense that does have talent to be pretty bad. Offensively, they're one of the worst passing teams in the NFL. Garrett Wilson is an absolute dog. Justin Fields, he definitely proved he could still run the ball, but their offense without them running all over an opponent is pretty pedestrian, if not terrible. This is a young offensive line. I understand. They don't have a lot of weapons. I understand. But for the defense to be this bad under Aaron Glenn, that speaks to how much of a botch that hire was. The reason that the Jets have not won a game is not because of the roster. It's not even because of Justin Fields, who is not a very good quarterback. It's because the coach is unprepared and not versatile and not flexible whatsoever. At number 29, the Jets. At number 28, the Giants. Back-to-back New Jersey teams. The Giants won a game against the Chargers. A spirited victory, a close, hard-fought grinder against Justin Herbert and the Chargers. An extremely impressive win. But the Panthers just beat the Falcons 30-0. If you think one win is going to move you up the list drastically, then you're mistaken. The biggest problem I have with the Giants is that they just lost Malik Neighbors, who previous to last week was basically their entire offense. The only thing they had in the passing game the last 2 seasons. Their offensive line is still terrible. They allowed an average edge rusher, what was that? The Giants allowed a terrible edge rusher named Thule to get 4 sacks on Jackson Dart. 4! Now, Jackson Dart did help the offense with his movement skills. Cam Scattaboo is a pleasure to watch if you like really slow running backs. And their defense finally played to their expectation. They rushed Herbert. They got after Herbert. They absolutely were all over him like Madison Beer. It was impressive. Okay? Can they continue that? The Giants, the mixture of different offensive creativity with a real pass rush. I'm not even doing that on purpose. Puts them at number 28. At number 27, the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins finally won a game. Now, I expected them to beat the Jets, the incompetently coached Jets. But wouldn't it be the Dolphins to have their best player get injured on Monday Night Football and then literally cheer that he's injured? Tyreek Hill was the happiest injured player I've ever seen in my life. He was glowing. He was smiling from ear to ear. Now, Mike McDaniel can scheme some offense, as we've seen the last few weeks. Their offense has been much better. Their run game has been much better. Devon Achane, right? Gordon mixed in there. I expect Malik Washington to be the breakout player here. I expect Darren Waller, when healthy, to make some splash plays. I expect Jalen Waddle to be the man that's the engine of the offense. I still think the offense will be competent. But here's the problem. Without Tyreek Hill, if they're not a very good offense, they have very little chance to win games because their defense still stinks. Stinks. You can run on them. You can throw on them. Surprisingly, you can block them rather easily. And they seem unathletic up front, which is a problem. Justin Fields ran all over them. And they can't stop number 1 receivers. The Jets honestly did whatever they wanted. They just kind of kicked themselves in the butt. So, Miami still competently coached offensively. I think they'll be there. I don't think you can take them for granted, but they're certainly not good either. So at number 27, the Dolphins. Number 26, Cincinnati. The Bengals, or shall I say, the Bungles, are back. 28-3 against Denver. 500 yards allowed against an offense that was the worst on early downs in the NFL up into that game. And no wonder they allowed 500 yards. They were on the field the entire game because Jake Browning just kept throwing the ball straight up down the field. Like, what are you guys doing? Zach Taylor is being exposed. Their offensive line is a joke. They're contending with the Texans for the most terrible offensive line in football. And if a player was ever set to win an MVP without playing, it would be Joe Burrow. He's proving how valuable he is to this team by not playing at all. And the defense is still bad. So at number 26, the Bengals. I still have them here because at least they have some weapons on offense. And their defense still fights hard. And they've played two really good defenses the last 2 weeks. So I still need to see a little bit more of this Jake Browning Bengals to truly get off the team completely. At number 25, the Raiders. In a spot that they should have won. In a spot that made all the sense in the world for them to win. They lost. You know a team is bad when you can't beat the Bears when they're on the road. You're bad. Geno continues to throw picks and more picks, and their O-line is not helping him at all. Their O-line is terrible. Colton Miller got hurt last week. Now, at least Ashton Genty played well. That's something for Raiders fans to look forward to. But the offense's lack of consistency with its lack of ability to block, coupled with the defense's lack of creativity, and honestly, lack of a secondary, is why they're so low. Many actually thought the Raiders would be a sleeper team. I was not one of those people. But they're even worse than I thought they would be. Truly. At number 24, a team that actually has a chance to win their division. The Cleveland Browns. I know. The Ravens are 1-3. Lamar Jackson is out for the next 2 weeks, and they play the Texans and the Rams. At best, they'll be 2-4. At worst, they'll be 1-5. Cleveland goes to London to take on the Vikings, and they're making a much-needed switch at quarterback. Joe Flacco has been horrendous. Dylan Gabriel, I think he'll be an upgrade. He's small, but he's accurate, he's decisive, he's quick-minded, he's quick-footed, and he has a better arm than you would think. I wouldn't be shocked if this offense played much better with Dylan Gabriel. He can do the things that Stefanski wants to do in terms of his movement, and he's accurate with the ball. And he goes to the right spot with the ball. Their run game is solid. Judkins has been good. They have enough at tight end with Njoku and Fannin. They have Judy. Sure, Tillman's hurt now, but I feel like they have enough. Now, I am concerned about the offensive line situation. They had to trade for Cam Robinson. I don't know why NFL teams keep trading for Cam Robinson. He's absolutely terrible. But here we are. Nonetheless, Cam Robinson can't really be worse than what they had previously. I think with Dylan Gabriel's movement and ability to make quick, concise completions, with a defense that's the best in football, studs against the run, quick penetrating up the field, dominant pass rush, stifling secondary, Cleveland can be right in there with Pittsburgh for this division, right in there with the Ravens. The Bengals can't stop a nosebleed, and right now offensively, they're incompetent. They're terrible. Cleveland has a dominant defense, and in a division like this, that gives you a chance. Because the Ravens, their quarterback's hurt, they're 1-3. The Steelers aren't exactly great. The Browns actually have a chance right now if Dylan Gabriel can cook. At number 23, the Vikings, who they play. The Vikings move back down the list. Last week, I moved them up. This week, I move them back down. Feels like that Bengals game was a little bit of a loner. The defense for the Vikings is odd. I don't know whether it's a good unit or not because they've played such little competition. Including this week, they play Cleveland, who is not a good offense. Gabriel or Flacco, it doesn't really matter. They're not a good offense. They've played Caleb Williams' Bears, where they were bad for about a half. They played the Bengals with Jake Browning, who can't block. They played the Falcons, who couldn't score a point against the Panthers, and they lost. And who else did they play? Like the Steelers, who were a bad offense, couldn't run the ball, couldn't throw the ball, couldn't do anything before they played the Vikings, who in Dublin ran the ball all over Minnesota, embarrassed them, out-physicaled them, rampaged them. Kenneth Gainwell looked like Le'Veon Bell in 2016. And DK Metcalf ran a slant to the house, proving how slow and pathetic the Vikings cornerback group is. I'm a little concerned about Minnesota. I think they're the worst team in their division right now. Quarterback position is in shambles. Carson Wentz isn't any good. I didn't even think he played all that bad. He just held the ball a little too long at times. But other than that, he made quite a few throws. It's not like JJ McCarthy is any better. The offensive line is atrocious. They're not healthy, and they can barely block. They have good receivers, and I like their coaches, but their defense is suspect. Their offensive line is vulnerable, and that's why I have them at number 23, and they have maybe the worst quarterback situation in the league. Number 22, the Houston Texans. They're basically a better version of Cleveland. Terrifyingly good defense. Dominant defense. They allowed 0 points against the Titans. But a bad offense. Even against Tennessee, they didn't score a touchdown to the fourth quarter. They had 6 points. Now, Woody Marks helps their run game, makes them more explosive. He's a good pass catcher. I think we saw some good signs of motion, play action, movement from the pocket from CJ Stroud. I thought CJ looked better. I thought he was calling at the line of scrimmage, doing some good things. Nico's playing well. The defense is awesome. Their pass rush is ridiculous. Their secondary. But I still have my questions. I need them to beat somebody other than the worst team in football. So I can't really put them too high. Although I still believe in them, I feel like that offensive line is still fundamentally flawed, and the offense is still the immovable object in terms of they don't move the ball. Number 21, Dallas. Dallas Cowboys. I have them at 21, although I feel like I could rank them anywhere from 21 through like 18. Dallas does have Dak, and Dak's been great. Dak's been an MVP candidate, a top 5 quarterback. He's first in the NFL in passing yards. He sliced up an excellent Packer defense that looked impenetrable in previous weeks. They embarrassed Jared Goff. They embarrassed Jaden Daniels. Dak sliced them up without CeeDee Lamb. They probably would have won if they had CeeDee Lamb. The O-line is playing better than I would have expected, even with the injuries. Javonte is a dog. I like what George Pickens has brought. I think Ferguson's having a great year. Defensively, they're solid against the run, but they are terrifyingly bad against the pass. This is why they're 21. They're the worst defense in football. They're basically the reverse Texans. They're the reverse Browns. Right? Now, offense and quarterback play matters more than defense. It's more consistent. If Dallas can find a way to get some stops, this is a playoff team. 100%. But I don't know if they can. They can't stop the pass at all. But they have an easy gift in the Jets. Now, can they make it happen here? Dallas is not at the standard where I can count on them to beat bad teams yet. Number 20, Chicago. Chicago is a better version of Dallas. I think they're better play called. They're more creative offensively. Defensively, they're a bit better than Dallas, but not by much. They're not a very good defense. They lost multiple players. Now, some will be returning from injury, like Kyler Gordon, for example, who's a very underrated nickel corner. Chicago also beat Dallas, so I give them the edge despite the CeeDee Lamb thing. But Chicago, I mean, they beat the Raiders and the Cowboys. Like, they're 2-2, but they blew a lead against not a very good Vikings team, a rookie in his first ever start on the road, and they were embarrassed there in the fourth quarter. And they got destroyed by Detroit, a good team, the only good team they've really played. The other teams, they beat because they're flawed. You know what I'm saying? Caleb, I still have major questions about, but I do feel like the offense has been humming the last 2 weeks. They've got enough balance through the run game. Their play action game's been fantastic. Caleb's making a number of throws outside the pocket, even if he misses a number of throws as well. Rome Odunze has broken out big time, and I just like what Ben Johnson is doing, and it feels like they're getting better. But I want to see them play a little bit more of a competent team. I need to kind of see if they can step up in competition. That's why I have them at number 20. Number 19, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not a very good football team, but they are opportunistic, and they have improved. I thought they played really poorly against the Patriots, and they won. So I have to give them some credit, but still I thought they kind of were dominated. But that being said, the Patriots, I think, are actually a good team. So I'll give them a pass there. The Pittsburgh Steelers then, didn't dominate the Vikings, but they look like the better team. They ran the ball, they possessed the ball, they got explosives through the air to DK Metcalf. They protected well, and they protected well against the Patriots too, to be fair. And Aaron Rodgers, he's not perfect. He's not great. He's probably a bottom 10 quarterback in this league. But what he does well, he still does well. Gets the offense in the right play, right? Throws the ball accurately and on time. And he gets the ball fast, right? Defensively, their pass rush can win you games. Their defense is older, slower, but also very savvy. And they force a lot of turnovers. Herbig has been a standout for me. They got Elliott back last week. Ramsey's been hit and miss, but he seems to make big plays. I feel like the Steelers, if they can continue to just play this opportunistic brand of defense, coupled with ball possession offense, they can be a team that wins a very weak AFC North. This AFC North is actually the worst division in the NFL right now, believe it or not, which is crazy to say. At number 18, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons just feel like at a fundamental level, a more well-rounded team than the previous teams I've talked about. Sure, they're not perfect. They did lose to the Panthers 30-0, as I brought up 3 times in this video already, but it has to be said because it's embarrassing. But they bounced back and they beat a pretty competent Commander team. Marcus Mariota has been great in his starts for the Commanders, and even though Terry McLaurin, they still were able to put up some points. After Michael Penix had his worst performance in the NFL against Carolina, he bounced back with big-time performance. Drake London had a great game. He was uncoverable. Bijan is ridiculous. I think he's the best running back in football. Their O-line is solid. They've got Kyle Pitts who can win one-on-one. Darnell Mooney is a good complementary receiver. And their defense, I think, is better than in years past. It's not great or anything, but they've got opportunistic players in their secondary, led by Jesse Bates and Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts, the 2 rookies with Jesse Bates. AJ Terrell didn't play last week. And their front, they're creative with how they try to scheme pressure and blitzes and things like that. They're solid against the run. They're competent. I feel like the Falcons are just a solid team. What maybe holds them back is their coaching, but I feel like they're solid. Like they're a solid offense. They're a solid defense. With Dallas, they have a very good offense, but a very bad defense. Chicago, a good offense, a bad defense. The Steelers, kind of a weird team. Kind of hard to calculate with the Steelers. Like, they're not a very good offense or a very good defense, but somehow it works because it's Mike Tomlin voodoo. And so you talk about the teams that Atlanta is around. I just kind of feel like they're a little bit more consistent in terms of the quality of both sides of the football, if that makes sense. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they can do some things in all facets of the game, and I've been mostly impressed with their defense all year. At number 17, Arizona. I think Arizona is a step up from the rest of the list because of Kyler Murray. I think Kyler is a good quarterback, or at least an average quarterback, but he definitely has the skills to make game-changing plays, to take over games, to run, to scramble, to buy time, to uplift a overall pretty lackluster receiving core. Marvin Harrison Jr. can't catch a cold, and Trey McBride's awesome, but other than Trey McBride and sometimes Marvin Harrison, the receiving core is bad. The offensive line and pass blocking situation is below average. Their run game without James Conner right now is not great. So the offense is just not fantastic, but it's not bad because of Kyler and Trey McBride. So they're a competent offense. I'd say they're average, They're good at possessing the ball. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. can build off what he did last week, maybe they have a little bit more of a ceiling. Defensively, they're well schemed. They're solid against the run most of the time. And I do think they have very creative third down sub-package defense. They've been without multiple players in the secondary. They nearly came back against Seattle. They could have won that game, possibly. I thought Seattle was the better team, but they were definitely in it. They were in it against the Niners. They could have beat the Niners. So far, they just feel very average. But in this league right now, I feel like pretty safe about Arizona. They're firmly better than the bad teams, but they're also firmly worse than the good teams. They're very much an 8-9, 9-8 type of vibe to me at number 17. At number 16, the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, the Ravens are at 16. They are bad. Okay? I have them at 16 when I include Lamar. I feel like if you have Lamar, you can't be worse than the most mid team in the league because he's a top 3 quarterback in football. And Derrick Henry is awesome. And they still have a good run game. And their offense is still explosive. Even if they've been exposed by blitzes and by certain containment looks with spies, and Lamar continues to struggle against those things, and the offense doesn't seem to block as well as last year, I still feel like they're a top-notch offense that can explode on any opponent at any given time. Defensively, though, they are devastatingly bad. And devastating is a good word, because if they had the defense they had last year, they're a Super Bowl contender. The year previous, they're a Super Bowl winner. But right now, they have a defense that can't do anything right. They're injured. They can't tackle. They can't cover. They can't stop the run. They literally can't rely on any aspect of their defense. They can't play island on the outside because they're too slow. They can't sell out to stop the run because they'll get beat down the field. If they play a lot of coverage, they'll just get ran over. It feels like they have no answers defensively because the personnel that they're deploying and the current scheme they're deploying is not allowing them to do that. And they have a ton of injuries on that side of the ball. And then that's coupled with an offense that keeps kicking themselves in the ass and keeps making mistakes. So the Baltimore Ravens are at number 16. They might be 1-5 entering their bye. Number 15, Jacksonville. Impressive win over San Francisco. Not necessarily because they dominated the 49ers. I mean, they needed a punt return and multiple Brock Purdy turnovers, 3 to be exact. And they got a little lucky with some of the calls and stuff, like the Travis Hunter catch, the Upton Stout interception that was reversed off of a weird penalty that wasn't a penalty. Like, the Jags did get a little lucky, even against a very beat-up 49er team that was losing receiver after receiver during the game. So I'm not sure how much I buy that win. I think the most annoying thing about the game was the Liam Cohen post-game with Robert Saleh, where Liam Cohen was being a puke. That was kind of weird. But Jacksonville does do some things really well. They do have competent weapons. Their run game is really fantastic. Travis Etienne is playing great. And Cohen just has a smart offense. Like, they have a fun screen game. He calls the right plays at the right time, even if he's a jabroni off the field. And then defensively, they have a good pass rush. Their front four this year has really taken it up a notch. And I think their corner position is very feisty, very underrated. Tyson Campbell, Jordan Lewis, Jones on the outside. And then their linebackers have played phenomenal. Devin Lloyd has been fantastic this year. Aluakon has been Aluakon, firing all over the place, sideline to sideline. So Jacksonville's defense is very solid. I think they're a top 10 defense right now. Their offense, they run the ball. They're able to get some explosives that way. Trevor Lawrence is the weakness of the team. Trevor Lawrence in their pass game is actually the weakness, weirdly enough. Brian Thomas hasn't been consistent. Travis Hunter hasn't been consistent, right? De'Ami Brown's been injured. Their pass game is actually the worst part of their team, which is kind of weird. So at least that's where they do have a ceiling, because if they can figure that part out, they could be a pretty damn dangerous team. At number 14, I have the New England Patriots. The Patriots are now 2-2. They beat the Panthers by 1 million. And I'm probably higher on the Patriots in this video than 99% of power rankings. But I just feel like I've been telling everyone about the Patriots, and the Patriots have been doing me no favors, like in that game against the Steelers. Didn't play that well against the Raiders. The Raiders game was kind of like, okay, we understand it's like a new coaching staff. Like, I don't know how many new starters. Like, basically the entire team is new. So it made sense they came out slow and all that, and the rain also affected the game. Week 2, they won an exciting game over a Miami team that looked terrible in week 1, but they looked great on offense in that game. The defense kind of slipped up. Week 3, they had a dominant performance, but people would tell you that they still suck because they lost. Even if they dominated the entire game, they just slipped up and kind of turned it over too many times. But in week 4, they put it all together where we saw the best of their offense, we saw the best of their defense, and they were able to clobber an opponent. The Patriots won't be that great every week, of course, but I think the thing to believe about the Patriots is they have a good offense and they have a good defense. In this NFL, that's a top 15 team. Couple that with, I think, a well-coached team from Mike Vrabel leadership perspective, Josh McDaniels offensive perspective. I've been really impressed with Josh McDaniels so far. Drake May is a legitimate top 10 quarterback. If you don't think so, you're not watching the games. Like, Drake May is legitimately in the MVP conversation. He's been absurdly good with a average supporting cast. But that being said, Hunter Henry has been very good at tight end, right? Stephon Diggs is starting to get it cooking. I like Kayshon Boutte a little bit. It's really just Douglas who's been really bad. And the running game, I mean, Stevenson's let them down with fumbles, but their running backs are all talented. If they can get more out of Travion Henderson, that would be a big, big deal. Their offensive line also seemingly is getting better with every game, including their first-round pick, Will Campbell. And their defense took a big leap last week with Christian Gonzalez returning. Christian Gonzalez is their best player defensively, and he's the guy that makes that defensive scheme play the way they want to play, right? It changes the matchups. And Milton Williams, Harold Landry, some of their pickups on defense have been so good for them. So the Patriots are really here. They're a good team, and I think they'll benefit from a weak schedule. They have a big test against Buffalo. We'll see how good they truly are against the Bills. If they can keep that a one-score game, then I think I'm proven right that they can be a team that makes the playoffs. So at number 14, I have the Patriots. At number 13, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have an awesome defense. I love their pass rush. Pat Surtain is great. They do have holes at linebacker, I feel like. They're still waiting for that Dre Greenlaw to pop up. Riley Moss does give up too many plays, in my opinion, so you can kind of pick on certain players in their defense, which kind of keeps their defense from being fantastic. It's probably top 5 in the NFL, but it's the difference between being 4th or 5th best and being the best. You know what I'm saying? They just have a couple holes that teams consistently pick on, but that front four is freaking phenomenal. And then offensively, their O-line is very good. Their run game really ran well against Cincinnati. Cortland Sutton's good. I like the combination of Mims and Franklin and what they can do with their skill sets. Sean Payton's a very good coach. Vance Joseph's a very good coach. Bo Nix is just mid. That's kind of the problem, is Bo Nix isn't great, and their weapons are just meh. Their offense is just meh. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just okay. They can perform well against bad defenses. Their defense is what drives this team, right? And for them to be truly elite, they need them to be spectacular. Or they need Bo Nix to take another lump in his game. And he hasn't done that yet. He's actually been probably worse than last year. So at number 13, Denver. Number 12, the Commanders. Commanders are tough to rank because they haven't had Jaden Daniels. They've had Marcus Mariota, which I've kind of said they've been the same team with or without Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota is literally the number 1 PFF graded quarterback in the NFL. But no, Terry McLaurin is actually a big loss. Terry McLaurin is their one-on-one specialist. He's their jump ball guy. He's their separator. He's their guy that demands a double team. He is a huge part of their offense. Even if he's not clicking on all cylinders, he is a guy that demands respect. Their offense, though, is elite. It's awesome. It's well-schemed. Their O-line is good. They can run the ball with the quarterback, the running back. They can throw the ball. They can screen the ball. They have all aspects covered. Their defense, though, is what will kill them in the end because Their coverage is arguably the worst right now in the league. According to PFF, it's 32nd. Their pass rush is below average. Their linebackers are slow in space. So they've been better against the run, but they have been incompetent against the pass this year. So at number 12, I have the Commanders. Really good offense. A well-coached defense that isn't quite, Dallas bad, but they're still not good enough to really contend with the top teams. Number 11, the Niners. The Niners are 11. The Niners could be higher if they're healthy. Like, I'd probably have the Niners in my top 10, definitely above my number 10 team, or probably even my number 9 team as well. But they're just so injured. Like, it's really hard to calculate the Niners. Like, some people would have them at 18, and I wouldn't even hate that. It's just that, like, you don't know. Like, Jennings is hurt. Ayuk is hurt. Kittle is hurt. Pearsall probably not going to play on Thursday. Purdy's been hurt. Mac's been hurt. I mean, Nick Bosa's out. So, but then again, if you get all that offense together, they're going to be a very good unit. They're going to be very hard to cover with Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. It's a very tough team to cover. Their O-line has been up and down all year. Their run blocking has been a problem. That's probably the biggest concern for me, is that they do have Christian McCaffrey and their O-line is healthy and they're not really able to run the ball. That's a concern. They need to find a way to be better running the ball. Defensively, they've been good all year. Even last week, they were good. They allowed a punt return. Their special teams continues to break their back. Their field goal kicking has been fixed, but now they got to figure out that coverage and some of the tactics on special teams to be better. But these are all fixable things. Players being hurt, fixable, right? Special teams, I feel like one of the more fixable things you can have. So even without Nick Bosa, this team defensively is top 10. And offensively, when they're healthy, definitely top 10. And they have Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. But that's where it's like, I have them at 11 because it's like Commanders have injuries. Baltimore has injuries. Niners, to me, like, these guys are set to come back at some point. It's just not going to look pretty until they do. But at number 11, the 49ers. Number 10, I have Seattle, who the Niners beat. But the Niners right now are beat up, and Seattle is healthy. And Seattle had a decent win against the Cardinals on the road on Thursday night, which is not an easy win. It's a divisional game on the road in a primetime spot. And like I said, the Cardinals are pretty much the bar of mid, right? Are you better than average or are you worse than average? If you beat the Cardinals, I feel like you're better than average. If you lose to the Cardinals, I feel like you're worse than average, kind of thing. You know what I mean? But Seattle has a very good defense. I think their interior D-line is studly. And Mike McDonald's a very good defensive coach. And they're good against the run. Offensively, I think that's kind of been the surprise of where they're able to get explosive plays down the field. JSN has been one of the best receivers in football. Kenneth Walker is a dog. And their O-line has been better than expected. I will say that. Sam Darnold and the O-line has been better than expected. So that's where maybe I'm a little bit higher on them than the beginning of the year. But I also want to see them play a good team. Like, they lost to the only team I would consider good on their schedule, which was San Francisco. Other than that, they play Tampa now, but Tampa is heavily beat up. If they lose to a beat up Tampa team at home, that again speaks to that they're just not quite ready for prime time. At number 9, Indianapolis. Indy is a certified good team. I feel confident about putting them at 9. Daniel Jones has been good, right? He did turn the ball over a couple times, but the Colts could have won that game if not for Adonai Mitchell completely effing up the game. I mean, fumbling the ball through the back of the end zone, holding a guy on a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. I am a little concerned about the defense. Like, the defense is not really well run in coverage. And I don't know how much of that is injuries, but they're not that good in the secondary, and you can certainly pick them apart. Run defense was a little discouraging against the Rams, but overall they've been solid there over the years. I do like their scheming, though, and they are an opportunistic unit, and they do seem to get some good pressure at times. So they're kind of one of those average, opportunistic, well-coordinated defenses, while their offense is pretty damn good. Like, it's explosive, it's balanced, they've got a plethora of weapons. They maybe don't have one dominant receiver, but they've got about 3 that can really ball, and Warren is a revelation. Daniel Jones is solid, and he brings something to the run game. I think they're well coached. So the Colts are a definition of a wild card type of team, where they don't really have any area of their team where they're truly spectacular. Maybe the run game, but if that's your best part of your team, like, oftentimes that doesn't necessarily lead to a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So I look at the Colts as like, this is like a definition of a wild card team. Like, good, but not great, but a lot better than we expected. At number 8, the Chargers. The Chargers have offensive line issues now, and that might end up absolutely killing the Chargers. Like, no Slater, no Alt. That's going to really hurt Herbert's MVP odds. And last week we saw that they could lose a game because Herbert wasn't adequately protected. Their receiving core is broken out in a big way. Keenan Allen still proving he can play. Quentin Johnston actually catching the ball and learning how to play receiver. And defensively, they're very well coached. They're not dominant on defense with like overwhelming talent, but they're just really well coordinated, and they made correct adjustments against the Giants. It was just a little too late because their offense couldn't overcome the lack of blocking. So they're going to have to figure that out. I have the Chargers at number 8. I've moved them down. I kind of view them as a wild card team. Maybe they win one playoff game, but I've definitely lessened my expectations due to all the injuries to the offensive line. It's a bummer. Number 7, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I want to put a little bit higher, but I can't yet because they're so injured. Mike Evans is out. There's a couple different offensive linemen injured, but I thought that Eagles game showed me more about Tampa than it did the Eagles. It showed me that, they held the Eagles to 200 yards on offense, and punt block, interception in the end zone. Tampa easily could have won that game. They easily could have. They didn't have Mike Evans. Like, the Bucs are going to have an awesome offense with everyone healthy. It's kind of like a 49er situation right now where neither team is healthy on offense, but I have extreme belief in them when they're both healthy on that side of the ball. Defensively, I think Tampa has really gotten better this year. I think the biggest notice for me is Hassan Reddick has really helped that edge position. And number 2, their secondary can cover. Like, McCollum, Dean, and Morrison is a sweet trio. I love watching them play. They play more man-to-man coverage this year. I think they've been really, really good in that area. So, number 7, the Bucs are actually, I think, a more well-rounded team than they were last year. It's just that they're very injured. At number 6, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs were impressive. I have to give the Chiefs credit for how they played against the Ravens. I was impressed by their offense. I was impressed by the verticality of Worthy and Tyquan Thornton together. I was impressed by Patrick Mahomes. I was impressed by the protection. I was impressed by the play calling overall, the scheming. Now, I have to say, it was against the Ravens. They still struggled to run the ball against the Ravens, who were the worst run defense in football. And it was a Ravens team that was beat up, that got even more beat up throughout the course of the game. So I need to see a little bit more from the Chiefs, more consistency offensively. But I thought it was a major step in the right direction. Mahomes threw 4 touchdowns. And defensively, I just have great belief in Spags. I thought he put together a very good plan for Lamar Jackson, and he stifled a very good offense. So at number 6, I feel like the offense is trending up and the defense is already top 10. That's a situation where you're a contender again if you're the Chiefs. Number 5, the Packers. The Packers are at 5. They did tie the Dallas Cowboys. Their defense played really, really uninspiringly, but I think it's kind of a wake-up call. They're a young football team, and I think now they kind of know their flaws. Their corners are certainly flawed. Their receiving core is certainly losing, or like they don't have the juice without Watson and Reed. It feels like they don't have that explosion that they typically have, but Romeo Doubs stepped up big time. Golden's been getting better with each and every game, and they're still running the ball fairly well. Their offensive line is beat up. Love is playing really well. I think Love looks the best he's ever looked this season, and we know their pass rush is awesome. It's just that Dak Prescott had the perfect formula to play against them, and Dak is the perfect quarterback to play against that type of defense. So I think they were exposed to a certain degree, and there was a bit of a game plan that was exposed, but at the same time, now it's their chance to adjust. I still believe in this team long-term to be one of the contenders in the NFC. They're just too good at the line of scrimmage when they're healthy, and I feel like their offense is incredibly well coordinated. At number 4, the Rams. The Rams, you can make an argument, should be undefeated, or you could make an argument should have lost this week and should have won last week. Either way, they're 3-1. Matthew Stafford's playing like an elite quarterback still. Puka Nacua has been the best weapon in football this season with a ludicrous amount of catches. I think he has over 40 catches in 4 games, over 500 yards in 4 games. He's averaging like 125 yards per game. They found some balance last week against Indy with Kyron Williams, and they've really found that the last 2 weeks. The Eagles, they also ran the ball well against with Corum as well. And Devontae Adams is making a couple big plays per game, like that touchdown. Defensively, I'm a little uninspired by their secondary and their coverage unit, but their pass rush continues to absolutely wreck drives and really get them some big turnovers and stops. So the Rams, there's something slightly off for me to truly believe they can go to the Super Bowl, but they are very, very close to convincing me. That's the best way to put it at number 4. At number 3, the Eagles. I think the Eagles right now probably are the most overrated team, just from the standpoint of like they're 22nd on defense, they're 30th on offense statistically. Last week they got 200 yards. The week previous, they easily could have lost the Rams if not for blocked field goals. And they survived against Dallas. They survived against the Chiefs with, Kelsey dropping the ball. Like, the Eagles have been very fortunate with their 4 victories and their 0 losses, but still, their championship pedigree, they have an unstoppable play, and at any moment, it feels like they can beat you with the run or the pass if they're on. It just feels like they haven't been all the way around on offense. They've been actually very uninspiring, very vanilla on offense. Hurts has been maybe one of their better reasons for inspiration on offense, and that's not really a good sign because usually he's a passenger and not the guy that's moving this thing. Defensively, though, they're still very, very good, especially I think their corner position with Cooper and Quignon really stirs the pot for me. Like, sure, they get good pressure up front, but I feel like those two guys' ability to match up with most number 1 and number 2s really gives them a formula for success in the back end with Vic Fangio. So number 3, the Eagles, they just got to find this offense. They really got to find this offense, or they're going to start to lose some of the games that they should win. At number 2, Detroit. I have Detroit as the number 1 NFC team. I think that they're the most well-rounded team with the combination of explosive offense, balanced offense, and good, well-coached defense. Their defense isn't great, but their defense is good. They have a destroyer in Aiden Hutchinson. They have an excellent linebacking core. I love their linebacking core. I love their safeties. Their corners are competent. Not fantastic, but competent. And I think they're only going to get better on defense, right? They're going to get McNeil back. I could see them making a trade. DJ Reed did get hurt. I don't know how significant it is. But offensively, they're a top 5 offense. They, Gibbs in the backfield, Laporta, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra. Feels like it doesn't matter what defense they play. They're going to find a way to move the ball because they just have so many solutions. Man coverage, they can beat that. Zone coverage, they can beat that. Run game, okay, you're not good against the run. They'll jam it down your throat. So for me, Detroit is just very versatile in their approach, and they can win a physical game. They can win a finesse game. They can win a lot of different ways. So Detroit to me is the best team in the NFC. And at number 1, I have the Buffalo Bills still because they were my team to pick to win the Super Bowl. They're undefeated. They haven't looked pretty the last couple of weeks, but it's Josh Allen on cruise control. He's the best player in football by a wide margin, and their offensive line's fantastic. Their run game is nearly unstoppable, and their defense is well coached, even if it right now is not playing its best ball. So, and I think their D-line's solid. But the Bills, number 1, they've got a stiff test in the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. So far, the Bills have not played a really tough schedule, if you think about it. I mean, the Ravens, they probably should have lost that game. That was their toughest opponent, and they only have 1 win. Otherwise, who have they really played so far? So the Bills have actually benefited from a pretty weak schedule so far. But we know what the Bills are. I mean, they have a track record of being a very good team. So at number 1, Buffalo. Those are my power rankings entering week 5. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button. We'll see you in the next video. Leave your opinion in the comments. Peace.